There's 104 days of summer vacation, then school comes along just to end it. So the annual problem for our generation is finding a good way to spend it. Like maybe building a rocket or fighting a mummy or climbing up the Eiffel Tower. Discovering something that doesn't exist or giving a monkey a shower. Surfing tidal waves, creating nanobots or locating Frankenstein's brain.
It's over here!
Finding a dodo bird, painting a continent, or driving our sister insane.
Phineas!
As you can see, there's a whole lot of stuff to do before school starts this fall.
Come on, Barry!
So stick with us, cause Phineas and Ferb are gonna do it all. So stick with us, cause Phineas and Ferb are gonna do it all.
Mom! Phineas and Ferb are making a title sequence!
Wow! So the biggest annual problem of our generation is finding a good way to spend it. Oh, so I think a good way to spend it is to hone and develop our critical thinking skills. Together, let's find out the theory of truths and our obligations as critical thinkers.
Yes, I agree. Let's read the Module 4 and 5 of the Philosophical Analysis book of Professor Acuña.
Ferb, I think I know what we're gonna do today.
Guys, Phineas and Ferb are trying to study Philosophy 1! Hey! Guess what time it is? It's time to begin our new discussion. Duh! So the first theory that we will be talking about is the coherence theory of truth. Well, maybe you're thinking that it sounds deep, so we'll try to break it down before something else happens in the backyard. The term coherence is relational and it should relate to two philosophical categories. This being said, in every version of this theory, an explanation of the nature of coherence between the two philosophical categories must be provided. Sa madaling salita, tumutukoy ang coherence sa ugnayan ng dalawang bagay. Upang maging epektibo ito, kailangan nating ipaliwanag kung paano magkakaugnay ang iba't ibang ideya o pahayag at kung bakit magkakaugnay ang mga ito dahil ang koneksyon sa pagitan ng mga ideya ay kung ano ang nagbibigay ng kahulugan ng coherence. In the context of philosophy, the first category are formal knowledge claims in the style of analytic statements. In the previous module, we've discussed the meaning of analytic statements. Ito ay mga pahayag na totoo dahil sa mga kahulugan ng mga salitang ginamit upang maipahayag ito. Meanwhile, the second category are empirical systems which are based on empirical evidences or senses, as well as formal systems like mathematics, logic, geometry, and linguistics. Now, here are some examples for better understanding. For the first example, if the first term is a mathematical term like 2 plus 8 is equal to 10, then the coherence that is being referred to is mathematical coherence in the formal system of arithmetic. Ibig sabihin, sinusunod ng equation na 2 plus 8 is equal to 10 yung mga rules ng arithmetic kaya siya tinuturing na true. The second example is about tautological statements or statements that are always true by definition. The statement, either I pass the exam or not, covers all possibilities. Thus, the coherence that we refer to here is logical coherence in the form of symbolic logic as it adheres to the rules of symbolic logic. The third example talks about geometric statements which are well-formed formulas. Statements such as two parallel lines will not meet are in the formal system they cohere with. In this case, they are in the formal system of geometry. At sa madaling salita, totoo ang pahayag na ito dahil sumusunod ito sa rules ng geometry. The next example relates to Kant's analytic judgment, which states that analytic judgment occurs when the predicate is contained in the subject. The theory of coherence holds that the first term must cohere with its use or definition. In the example, sisters or female siblings, the coherence refers to coherence with definition since the term sister aligns with its meaning. Meanwhile, in the example, amphibians are animals that can live on both land and water, coherence is referred to as coherence with the stipulative definition or agreed-upon meaning of the term in the empirical system of zoology. To get a better grasp of this, totoo ito dahil nagtutugma ang pahayag sa facts at definition na ginagamit sa sistema ng zoology. To conclude, the coherence theory of truth highlights the importance of consistency by claiming that a statement is true if it is coherent with other true statements. Additionally, the nature of both categories and their correlation are significant considerations in comparing the versions of the coherence theory of the truth. Okay, enough of this coherence thingy. Let's now proceed to the next theory of truth, the correspondence theory. Like the one that claims something is true if it matches reality. So basically, when I say that Phineas and Ferb are building a rocket in the backyard, then they actually are, then voila, correspondence. Similar to coherence, the term correspondence is also a relational term correlating to at least two philosophical categories. It emphasizes the connection of the truth to reality, implying that one's thoughts and language corresponds to the external world. Sa madaling salita, para maging totoo ang isang pahayag, kailangan tugma ito sa nangyayari sa mundo. Similar to coherence theory, there are two categories. The first category is the philosopher's empirical knowledge claim, a claim that is grounded on the philosopher's observation and experiences. On the other hand, the second category is the philosopher's theory of reality, which often involves reasoning or any ideas that cannot be observed. To have a better grasp of this theory, consider this example. The dog is inside the cage. For this statement to be true, there must be an existence of a dog and a cage, and the dog must be inside the cage. If the claim now corresponds to the state of affairs, then it is true. If it does not, then it is false. In summary, the correspondence theory of truth claims that for a statement to be true, it must reflect reality. In addition, the nature of both categories determines the nature of correspondence relations.
Moving on to the realist version of correspondence theory of truth, Professor Acuña defines this as something useful in verifying empirical claims and evaluative claims. You will see why later on why it is useful. It is also this version of the correspondence theory of truth that allowed the most primitive man to survive up to the contemporary period. This is because it helped them determine their surroundings, since back then they didn't have fancy tools. They had to rely on their senses. Although frowned upon by Descartes, it was the best tool they had back in their primitive days. Which leads us to the next one. It is also used in almost all naturally evolved languages. There are actually 4 types of empirical claims discussed by Professor Acuña. The first one is about the present. So if your claim is about the current state of something or anything in this matter, you use a corresponding claim based on your direct observation. Let's look at these examples. It is raining outside. The weather may vary by the time you are watching this, but I can prove this since it is correspondence to the weather outside being rainy. The second claim is about the future. To verify these type of claims, we can use the past evidences. One example is the sun will rise tomorrow. We know that this is true since we are aware that the sun rises in the morning, or in this case, the sun rose yesterday, which is in the past now. Now, let's move on to claims that are about the past. We can determine these using documentation and testimonies about the past. In the example, martial law was brutal. We can confirm this claim using the testimonies from the victims of martial law. On to our last type of claim, empirical generalization. These can be proven true through the use of evidences provided by a small portion or representative sample of the population that is being talked about. Almost all UP students who study hard finish their courses. We can prove this claim by using the alumnus of the UP system as a representative of the population. So then, it is true. How about verifying claims using your own judgment? That is where verification by intersubjective consensus comes into play. Let stealing is wrong be an example. This claim is a generalization of the intersubjective consensus of real people playing a language game while sharing a form of life. If I were to say this claim to people, almost no one will say that I'm wrong since everyone's evaluative judgment is supported by their intersubjective consensus. Or in simple terms, lahat ng tao alam na nila yung tama at mali dahil sa morals nila. Professor Acuña also mentioned that the gathering of intersubjective consensus is an empirical task. It is a task of complying with the process of verification using the correspondence theory of truth. It is also said that the task will be much easier if you share the same values and morals with the concerned public, or what I said earlier, dahil alam mo na yung tama at mali, at yung community mo sinashare yung same morals with you, mas madali mong magagather yung intersubjective consensus. Every time you accept an evaluative claim, you also need to accept its prescription. Let's have plagiarism is wrong. As an example, if you were to accept this claim, you should also accept its prescription. Do not plagiarize, otherwise you would be guilty of dissonance, which is where you fail to match your beliefs with your actions. Since we are talking about prescriptions and prescriptions, we need to take note that these are evaluative inferences from evaluative judgments. Nakukuha natin ang mga claims na to from our own judgments and in turn, nagagamit sila to assert what is good, moral, virtuous, desirable, and just. These prescriptions and prescriptions are also used in legal policy making. Prescriptions being, ang pagtawid dito ay nakamamatay, and prescriptions being, bawal tumawid dito. Now we know that prescriptions and prescriptions are used in policy making. Did you know that there are two types of justification in policy making? The first one is deontological. This is where you justify the policy without considering its consequences. For example, the policy total logging ban can be good in itself, and there is no need to look at the consequences. The last one, theological. In this justification, you justify the policy whether it's good or bad based on its consequences. Note that this can result in immoral policies. Examples are policies that can be harmful to humans but beneficial to the economy. Wow, we are done with Module 4 already. Let's see what Phineas is cooking up in Module 5.
After uncovering those discoveries in Module 4 Theories of Truth, now let's focus on our obligations as critical thinkers. Bilang mag-aaral ng filosofiya, kailangan natin tandaan to never accept the truth of any statement or belief unless there's adequate evidence for it. Huwag tayong agad-agad maniniwala sa isang sabi o paniniwala kung hindi naman sapat ang ebidensya na sumusuporta rito. Dapat matuto tayong maging critical thinker at huwag magdalos-dalos sa pagtanggap o pag-reject ng mga ito. Dumako naman tayo sa tatlong uri ng knowledge claims. Ang una ay ang no knowledge claim. These are knowledge claims that have enough evidence supporting them and are actually already discovered and proven to be known. Also, this type of knowledge claim is considered provable as it has already been proven. Isa sa mga halimbawa ay you can identify an individual through a DNA test. This is a known claim because it has already been proven with adequate evidence that we can do this, na pwede siyang gawin or patunayan sa technology and civilization natin ngayon. Ang pangalawang knowledge claim ay knowable. These are knowledge claims that have enough evidence that states that there is a possibility for these claims to be true or proven. These claims are also considered provable as there's enough evidence that they might be true. Example of this is, cloning a human being might be possible because scientists were able to successfully clone a sheep. This is an example of a knowable claim as it shows possibility of being true or proven because of other evidence. It might be possible in principle but not in fact. The last knowledge claim is unknowable claims. These are claims that does not have enough evidence to be considered possible to prove. Tinatawag din silang unprovable claim dahil sa kakulangan nila ng supporting evidence. Example nito ay, there is a supernatural being responsible for us and the world. Unprovable to dahil wala pa tayong sapat na ebidensya para mapatunayan na totoo ngang merong supreme being or supernatural being na nangangalaga sa atin at sa ating mundo. There are two classifications of knowledge claims, namely provable and unprovable. The provable claim refers to claims with sufficient evidence enough to prove that these claims may be true. Meron pang dalawang knowledge claims sa ilalim ng provable claims. Ito ay ang provable in principle o ang mga claims na maaaring tama hypothetically pero hindi pa nagagawa o mga tinuturing nating knowable claims. Ang pangalawa naman ay ang provable in fact o mga claims na may readily available facts o mga tatawag nating known claims. The second claim naman is unprovable. This type of claims lack the necessary evidence to be considered provable. So sinasabi dito na hindi sapat ang mga ebidensya at kaalaman natin para masabi natin pwede itong mapatunayan. Isa na lamang sa halimbawa ng mga ito ay ang existence ng isang supreme or supernatural being. Ngunit wala tayong sapat na ebidensya para masabi na may supreme being nga na nangangalaga sa atin at sa mundo. Kaya't ito ay may tuturing nating unprovable claim. Ayan, ngayong alam na natin ang tatlong types of knowledge claims. Pag may nagkukwento sa atin, nararapat lang na isipin natin ng mabuti kung provable o unprovable ba ang statements or beliefs nila para sa mas mabunga at malaman na diskusyon. So, ayun na lamang ang may babahagi ko sa inyo. Naririnig ko na kasi si Candice parang magsusumbong na, paalam! Ay wait, where's Perry?
Alright, that's a wrap, peeps! We are now done with the modules 4 and 5 of Unit 2. We have explored the two theories of truth according to Professor Acuña, as well as our obligations as a critical thinker. So, remember, as philosophy students, we bear responsibility to think critically at all times in discerning the truths by means of the two theories that we tackled earlier. Thanks for finishing the discussion with us, and now let's go and find some ways to spend our next summer vacation.